Let's examine how the General Electric 9-cell matrix works for managing diversification using Starbucks brands. Note that this same tool can also be used for managing a corporation's portfolio of subsidiaries if indeed that firm is diversified. The matrix is quite simple. On the x-axis, you'll want to plot competitive strength, being anywhere from strong to weak of your product or subsidiary. And on the y-axis, what is the long-term industry attractiveness? That could be ranked anywhere from high to low. Under each of these different color codes would be broad umbrella strategies that would be prescribed for your product or subsidiary. It could be grow and build. On the diagonal, you'd find selective investment. And in the bottom corner here, you would find the broad umbrella of harvest strategies. Before we go any further, it's instructive to know that Starbucks, of course, is not just traditional brewed coffee anymore. They diversified over time into a number of different products, including energy drinks, smoothies, its new refresher line, teas and green teas, breakfast offerings such as muffins and scones, paninis, etc. for lunch, parfaits, and yogurt. And they also even sell music now on CDs that it's the same music they play in their store. So I said that there's three different major umbrellas of strategies. Under grow and build, you'll find more succinct strategies such as product or market development, integration in any form, and also partnering strategies that we've discussed to date. Selective investment or diagonal strategies that your product or subsidiary may fall into are often prescribed product development or related diversification strategies. And firms finding themselves in this part of the matrix are typically prescribed divestiture, retrenchment, or cost cutting, or moreover turnaround, which is trying to rejuvenate the brand or the product. The first thing we'll consider for Starbucks is its traditional flagship brewed coffee. Let's keep it simple. In the United States, where might Starbucks consider this product to fall into? In terms of competitive strength, I think it would hard to be argue anything other than Starbucks coffee has strong competitive strength, and the long-term industry attractiveness of coffee is still in a pretty high growth market in the United States. So Starbucks would probably find its coffee in this part of the matrix. Now, this would be under a grow and build type of strategy, which could include product development or market development or penetration. Product development, what has Starbucks done with its traditional line is diversified into into teas and green teas, which is a form of product development. Moreover, it's made a major push in market development into China and more recently into India and also Vietnam. The next product we'll look at is that of K-Cups, and you may or may not have a K-Cup machine, or if you haven't, maybe you've seen one. If you haven't, here's a picture of one here. K-Cups are simply a pod of coffee, single serving pod that's made on a Keurig machine. The biggest player has traditionally been Green Mountain Coffee, although that's starting to change a little bit. Where would you put Starbucks K-Cups in this matrix? Well, I have to tell you that the competitive strength of Starbucks at this point in time is not strong. It's probably average to weak at best because this market is dominated by Green Mountain and it's actually very diverse. A lot of companies are offering their own K-Cups in it. Starbucks is making a play. Long-term industry attractiveness, that might be hard to assess as well because this K-Cup machine might be in a mature part of the product life cycle. It's been out for several years. It remains to be seen exactly where it is, but I would argue that it's somewhere between medium and high in terms of long-term attractiveness. We're not really sure yet. Nevertheless, it probably puts that Starbucks offering right around my cursor is, and that would call then for selective investment. Selective investment includes product development or related diversification. Related diversification is a strategy that Starbucks K-Cup business has recently undertaken by getting into its own line of hardware. This is Starbucks' own machine to compete with the Keurig machine. It's a single cup coffee dispenser that uses only Starbucks pods. It will not take the traditional Keurig pods that many other people are selling, only the Starbucks pods. So they're really trying to get a foothold on this evolving industry. The last product we'll consider is that of how Starbucks is doing in Europe. They have varying levels of success in Europe, but it's important to know that in Europe, over the last couple of years, they've actually seen their same store sales decline modestly. Why is that? There's a lot of players in Europe, and a lot of European countries have different preferences for coffee and how it's served to them. But suffice it to say that Starbucks has, at best average, perhaps weak competitive strength in Europe, being in that they're a fairly new player in that market. The long-term industry attractiveness of coffee in Europe, it's probably closer to a medium at best, because coffee has been a mainstay in Europe for a much longer time than it has been in the United States. The company or the industry is far more evolved than it is the United States. So I think we'd find Starbucks Europe offerings around here, and indeed what Starbucks has done of late in Europe is they are trying to turn around that company. And indeed, under harvest strategies, we find divestiture, retrenchment, and turnaround strategies. The turnaround strategies that Starbucks is trying to affect in Europe is that it's closing its stores where profit margins aren't that high, and they typically find that in major cities where the rents to rent a Starbucks coffee store is incredibly high. They're trying to move these Starbucks kiosks or stores closer to where the most foot traffic is, thus giving the biggest bang for their buck. This is a harvest strategy for this product of Starbucks, and this is probably a pretty good illustration of how the GE 9-cell matrix could work.